Namaskar and welcome to our special coverage of Prime Minister Modi's interactions at the G7 summit in Evian. India returns to the G7 stage for the 13th time.
Yes, indeed.
Carrying the voice of a rising global south and the confidence of a major power shaping global decisions. And over the next 2 hours, me and Mark on DD India, we will look at India's agenda, broader agenda, its partnerships and what New Delhi hopes to achieve at this year's summit. I'm Sakal Bhatt and with me is my dear colleague Mark.
Thank you very much, Sakal. And yes, indeed, for the 13th time, India is at the G7 high table, and this year with a sharper strategic footprint, also a louder developmental voice, from geopolitics to technology, climate to economic security. We'll break down what India brings to the summit and what it aims to take back as well. We'll be joined by our correspondent, Shubhendu Ghosh is there in Evian. And we'll have experts who have been tracking these summits closely over the years, and they're going to contextualize them for us with the current global realities.
Absolutely. So let's begin. So on the third leg of his Europe visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the French resort town of Evian on Tuesday. The Prime Minister was received by G7 Secretary General at the venue of the summit. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will be participating at the 52nd G7 summit. India has been invited as an outreach partner country by host France. And most importantly, on the sidelines of the meeting, the Indian Prime Minister is also scheduled to hold bilateral meetings with other world leaders. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh reports from France.
On the third leg of the Europe visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the G7 summit in Evian-les-Bains in France. During the summit, he will exchange views with G7 leaders and those from invited partner countries and international organizations.
India's regular participation at the G7 summits reflects the increasing recognition of India's role and contributions in addressing global challenges relating to peace, security, development, and environmental sustainability. Also at the G7, as in other international forums, including the G20 and the OAS of Global South Summit, India has consistently brought to the forefront the priorities, concerns, and developmental aspirations of the Global South.
The G7 is an informal grouping of leading industrialized nations, including the United States, France, Germany, Japan, United Kingdom, Italy and Canada. The EU participates in all discussions as a guest. In addition to the members, France has invited India, Brazil, Egypt, Kenya, South Korea, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Ukraine and the UAE as outreach partner countries. Ahead of the summit, world leaders arrived at the French resort town. Announcement of a peace deal by the United States and Iran has raised the expectations from the gathering of leaders. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also hold bilateral meetings with several world leaders. As BRICS chair in 2026, participation of India in G7 assumes greater importance. The priorities of the G7 are diverse, from sustainable growth to critical mineral supply chain to issues of geopolitical conflicts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's presence at the G7 summit means that the concerns of the global south will find a credible, trusted voice on this influential platform. With camera person Aniket Dubey, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Evian.
And we are joined by a very special panel of experts on this very special broadcast, India at G7 Summit. Let me quickly go across live to Italy, from where Ms. Francisca Marino, very senior journalist who specializes in Europe and South Asia matters, joins us live. Thank you very much, Ms. Marino, for joining us all the way from Italy. Namaste and welcome to DD India. And I also take this opportunity to welcome Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former senior diplomat from Haryana. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining us. Francisca, I would like to start with you. You would agree that this edition of G7 summit is being convened when we are witnessing historic energy crisis, if I'm allowed to use that word, is being convened at one of the most charged political moments of the decade, and considering the kind of breakthrough that we have seen as far as President Trump is concerned in the last 48 hours. Do you think that's going to dominate the major discourse of this edition? And the second part of my question would be what India really brings to the table. Your opening remarks. Francisco Marino.
These first hours are, of course, being hijacked by the so-called Iranian deal or memorandum of understanding, whatever you want to call it. It looks a lot like the famous Doha agreement on Afghanistan. And so Trump is trying to convince the rest of the world that it's not a defeat, which looks like the text of the agreement has not been released yet. So apparently it's much worse than we think. Said this, I find very interesting the list of countries being invited.
Okay.
Of course, India has been invited several times because it emerges every year more clearly as a superpower, a global South leader, and there's no discussion about it. Nobody can afford to cut India out of the discussion and the narrative, especially on issues like development, like energy, like many things.
Right, indeed. So let me bring in Ambassador Prabhu Dayal into the discussion. Ambassador.